All right. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you. Today we are going to be having a very fun, highly interactive student spotlight. We have two current students in our Master of Science in Business Analytics program joining us today. Just so everyone kind of understands what we are doing here before we get started, all participants have been muted. This is just simply to reduce any sort of background noise, but I want to make sure everybody on the line can hear me. So if you are having any difficulties, please use the chat function and let us know. As I mentioned, we do hope that this will be a very interactive session today. So feel free to write your questions in the chat function and we will address those questions for you at the end. If you could please try and keep your questions related to the student experience today. That's primarily what we have our students here for. If you have additional questions regarding the program or your application or deadlines or the application process, that's completely fine, but please reach out to, we'll have some new contact information for you at the end of today's presentation if you do have any additional questions. So just to kind of give you an idea of what to expect here today, we'll go through some brief introductions. We'll have our students introduce themselves, and then we'll start talking a little bit about their experience and what it's like to actually go through our Master of Science in Business Analytics program, and then what it's like maybe to move from somewhere else to prepare for this program. And then we plan to open it up for questions. So you can ask our students questions that you might have. So just to kind of give you an idea who you have here with you today, my name is Eric Jacobs. I've been working with a large number of you, and I'm joined also by my colleague, Amy.
Hey guys, it's Amy here. Good to see so many of you show up.
Excellent. We are very, very excited to have you guys all here. We're super happy that everyone has joined us today, and they're so excited to learn more from our current students. Joining us today are our student ambassadors. We have Kenny as well as Vaibhav. Kenny, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Kenny Jong. I came from Indonesia. I came here for MSBA.
Awesome. Kenny, what was your undergraduate major?
My undergraduate major is a long one. It's called Interdisciplinary Studies with concentrations in engineering management and mathematics.
Okay, so you're definitely one of those students who came into the business analytics program not necessarily coming from a business or an analytics background specifically. Awesome. And Vaibhav, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Vaibhav. I come basically from India. Last I was working in Dubai. I have 10 years of work experience in a supply chain field, and my undergraduate is also in the supply chain.
Awesome. So we got a pretty great cross-section for students here, those who have work experience coming into the program, and then those kind of starting fresh out of their career coming into the program as well. Because I know we typically do get a lot of questions from students kind of asking how successful they can be or if work experience is required, and we'll definitely touch on that. So kind of just to start things off here, Kenny, why did you select WP Carey and the MSBA program?
So after I graduated my undergraduate degree, I stumbled upon data analytics, and as I researched more into the program, it sparks interest, and I just like data. I've been using a lot of Excel. I like to organize my data, so I feel like this is a good program for me.
Awesome. And Vaibhav, why did you select the WP Carey MSBA program?
So for me, coming from a supply chain background, I wanted to learn methods and technologies that would help me optimize the supply chain operation. So traditionally, supply chain has been a very spreadsheet-based kind of things and like a late adopter to a new technology. So me getting here, I wanted to get a paradigm shift in the supply chain, get learning of new tools, and for example, let's say doing a forecasting on a spreadsheet is entirely different doing a forecasting on a Python. So yeah, I wanted to add that kind of a challenge to it.
Awesome. So let's kind of think, if you could, Kenny, you want to start off for us, describe a day in the life of an MSBA student. What can these students expect?
My day usually, as soon as I wake up, I'll check my calendar, see if there's any assignments that I need to do, any of the group project, and usually we have a team meeting set up, so we will kind of look into it. If we do meet up, it's not, I mean, it's a project, we're working on an assignment, but it's also a fun time to like meet up with friends, just kind of do the work.
Awesome. So what would you say like your class schedule is like? Do you have morning classes, evening classes, afternoon classes? I know we have multiple cohorts when we assign our students, and sometimes they'll have different schedules, but what's your schedule actually kind of look like?
So my first semester, which was last August, our schedule is more in the mornings. So we start off 8:30 and ends at around 1 or 2 p.m. This semester, it's more an afternoon. So we start off on Monday, Wednesday, we start off 1:30 p.m. till 4 p.m. And then Tuesday, Thursday, it's a night class, so it's 6 p.m. till 9 p.m.
Oh, wow. Okay. So your schedule's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're not just necessarily in class that entire time. Like you said, you are on campus, meeting with your fellow group members, working on group projects, attending various different events, perhaps, maybe meeting with your career coaches. So definitely there's a lot to keep you busy throughout the program. Would you say it's possible to work while going through the MSBA program? Now, typically we don't encourage students to work because we understand it is a very rigorous program. Now, from your experience, how do you feel about that?
The first semester, I would say for me, it's not possible because even myself, I'm struggling throughout the course. Not in a bad way, it's just that it's a lot of work that needs to be done. But this semester, there's a lot more time for you to do other stuff, maybe an internship or like some other kinds of work, but I would still not recommend it just because we have applied project, we have any like all other classes.
That's a good point. You definitely want to use, while your program kind of opens up a little bit during the second year, you want to use a little bit more of that free time to dedicate towards your applied project or towards working with our career coaches so they can help you, because, you know, everyone's asking about how do I find a job after I graduate. That's a great time, now that you have a little bit more time in your second semester, to sit down and meet with your career coaches. So Vaibhav, can you tell us a little bit about what's your typical day look like as an MSBA?
Yeah, I mean, coincidentally, we both share the same classes, and so it's kind of same. Basically, we usually have 3 hours of classes per day. I would usually study before the class for the topics being taught in the class, and usually after the class, as he said, we have our team meetings where we would be doing some kind of a project work, and sometimes we would do some group studies for the quizzes that's coming up. Usually there are quizzes every week, so we would do some group studies after, and you would have some time left for you then, so where I would usually go to STFC, work out, and play some games.
There's still time to enjoy life while you're going through school. Even though it is busy, you still get to have a little bit of fun. Awesome. So if you can kind of think back, Vaibhav, we'll actually start with you on this one. What's been your favorite experience as part of the MSBA program?
My favorite part has been, I have taken part in many international competitions and some challenges. I've got an opportunity to solve some real life problems with some of the projects that I'm working with. So that's where, you know, it's kind of inculcate the practical knowledge to the course, and that's been my favorite part of the course.
Awesome. Kenny, what's been your favorite experience so far?
For me, part of the experience is learning some high-level stuff, because I come from the very different backgrounds. Most of the stuff that's covered, I've at least heard of it before in my undergraduate, so it's nice to learn all that classes in a more like high level. Also like friends, hanging out with friends, getting to know all the other people in MSBA. he can never say, I have too much friends, I have too many friends. So it's a very nice experience.
Excellent. I mean, that sense of community is something that is very important to us here at WP Carey, and I really hope that as a student, you're able to experience that as you're here on campus. 9 months is a very short amount of time when you actually think about it, but you have a very great chance to develop those relationships with your fellow classmates. So here's a question that we typically get quite often is, how do you manage your school life balance? How do you make that work? Vaibhav, you mentioned you still are able to find a little bit of time to go exercise, to work out, but what's really your secret to managing those sort of aspects?
So this is what I learned from my, let's say, past job. I would schedule my task, let's say, okay, this particular hour I'll do this thing, this particular hour I'd study for quiz. So I'll schedule my day within, like, let's say, closest hour, and that's how I kind of make sure that I get some time for myself and also do my all project works and whatever the homeworks and quizzes that we have.
Excellent. Kenny, how do you find yourself kind of balancing the school life aspect?
For me, it's all about the calendar. After I graduate, I've never used a calendar before, but after I graduate, I worked for a few months. And during that job, I needed to use calendar just for work purposes, and that's how it kind of sticks with me in terms of using calendar. A good resource is a Google Calendar. It's free to use. It's easy. I would schedule any team meetings, any assignments, quizzes in the calendar, and you can visually see what time slots you are free. If you can do any other stuff, if you want to work on study quizzes, homeworks and stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I always tell students, if you're not a time management expert before you go into graduate school, you will definitely become one afterwards, because using things like calendar are always very, very helpful to really managing your balance, so you're not completely just overwhelmed with everything. If you do a good job, like you said, of scheduling that time, and then also importantly, scheduling time for yourself, scheduling time for your family. That's how you're able to really balance things between work and school and homework and the rest of your time while you're here on campus. So since we have kind of different levels of experience, let's start things out with you, Kenny. As someone who's kind of just starting out in their career, how do you feel the MSBA program is preparing you for your career after school?
So I feel like we're learning a lot of stuff, a lot of foundation for the program, business analytics, and it's a very good skills to have when applying for jobs. The program also has a lot of career fairs set up, a lot of events, guest speaker, and that's a very good way to connect with the people in the industry to kind of figure out what they do using analytics, and then go from there.
Awesome. And Vaibhav, as someone who has a little bit more work experience before joining the program, how do you feel as if this is helping you to take that next step in your career?
So we have what I did was I joined many clubs which would help me take part of hone my skills. Let's say one of the clubs that I joined was a Toastmaster club, which would help my debating skills, and there are many other clubs that you can join, and this would kind of prepare you and for the what you are expected in the work life. And as Kenny said, there are many career fairs which we have on today. So we would be that's where you get a platform to showcase your skills and get into the job environment.
Awesome. So what would you say, as you guys are quickly coming to the end of your program, you only have a couple more months here, what would you say is the most valuable thing you have gained from the MSBA program? Kenny?
For me, it's the network. It's the connection that I have with my classmates, with the faculties, with other people in the program, and also the skills, like I said, the foundation that we learn. Because I've never been exposed to analytics before, so I'm learning a lot of new stuff like SQL, Python, and all that stuff. So for me, that's the most valuable thing.
Awesome. And Vaibhav, what would you say was the most valuable thing that you've gained in this program?
Kind of going on the lines of what Kenny said, apart from having the hard and skills and the soft skills that we were taught, the brand name of ASU, the WP Carey, and also the network of alumni and faculties that come along with this one. So that's kind of the most valuable thing, I would say.
Awesome. So before we open it up to questions from our listeners and our prospective students, what advice would you like to share with them? Is there something that you know now that you wish you knew maybe 9 months ago or a year ago before you were getting ready to start this program? What sort of advice would you like to share? Vaibhav?
I would say if you're considering planning to join this program, just brush up on your Python and stat skills, because most of your coursework is based on that. Take up some crash courses, or you have some websites of Coursera, do some crash courses over there. That will really help you stay ahead of the curve in the class.
That's a fantastic bit of advice, and that's something that we've heard from students in your class and from previous classes. And so this year, over the summer, before students actually arrive here on campus, we're actually going to be sending out a couple course packs to help them brush up on those specific topics. Statistics, Python, those are going to be, some very central themes to what you work on as part of the program, and these modules are definitely going to help our students prepare for the program so that when they get here in class and they're ready to go on day one. So that's something that's really cool that we do. We hear feedback from our students, and then we try our best to implement that feedback right away to make the program better. So that's a great piece of advice. Kenny, what sort of advice would you have for any prospective students out there?
Yeah, so just like what Vaibhav said, Python is very important. And also, I would say SQL, because depending on your career path later on, some jobs require a very deep SQL understanding. So that might be something that they want to brush up on. But for me, Python is where I struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So if I knew back then, I would study more Python, practice more to get myself familiar with all the stuff in Python.
Okay. So one more question here before we open it up to our listeners. I know a big part of our program, and especially a big part of what you guys are working on right now, is the applied project. Can you talk to us a little bit about your projects? Are you working on the same project? Are you working on different projects? Vaibhav, you want to tell us a little bit about what your experience is with that particular class?
Sure. So the applied project is the last part of, it's kind of a capstone project that we are working on, and yes, we're working in different teams. I'm working with a company, University of Phoenix, and we are developing a forecasting model for them. So we are using a lot of Python, a lot of analytical skills that we have learned for the past 8-9 months, 6-7 months, and building up a model for them. This is kind of giving, again, a practical approach and solving a real-life problem that you would be doing once you get into the job. So it's really exciting.
Awesome. Kenny, what's your experience with the applied project been with? What are you working on?
Yeah, so I'm working with the company Arizona Lottery. Our project is based on marketing budgets. So we're trying to estimate the return on investments, trying to figure out the profit impact from the budgets. We are using Python to implement it. And for me, it's a very nice experience because in classes, you're only working on case studies, more theoretical stuff. But over here, it's more practical, where you're using the stuff that you learn and apply it to a real-life work, a real-life project.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so we'll open it up. Amy, I'm sure the chat's been flying by here. Do you have any questions for our students to kick it off with?
Yes, so there's a lot coming through. Everyone, please feel free to type into the chat, to the everyone, if you would, so I can read them all. So the first question I have is for Vaibhav. Can you just talk about what kind of competitions, you mentioned your competitions that you joined. They want to know what kinds of competitions, and did you get those through WP Carey or from an outside resource?
Yes, most of them were through WP Carey. There were some competitions on the text mining, There are some, let's say, voluntary competitions that you can go into, let's say, Kaggle competitions, GitHub competitions, so analytics Vidya competition. I'm sure you would have heard of those things, so which you could go in, and there are some projects that faculty could source it for us, which we are part of it. So
that actually connects to a really good question. I'm jumping ahead a bit, sorry, but someone wanted to ask, who are the professors that you like, or what are the professors like in the classroom? Are there hard taskmasters, or what's your opinion of the faculty that you've had in the classroom? I'm sure you've had a lot of teachers, so let's just do a brief overview of your experience with the faculty.
I can start with that one.
Sure.
My experience in ASU, at least in MSBA, has been great. All the faculties are awesome. In terms of tests or in quizzes, they're fairly challenging in a way that makes you think. But they're all very helpful. They're all they like to help the students. And there's always office hours available. They tailor their office hours to our schedule. So even like after class or before class, there's always time for office hours.
Great. Vaibhav, do you have anything to add about the faculty?
Kind of on the same lines, faculties are very nice. They are very knowledgeable. Their course curriculum is such that everyone would learn everything. And if there are some challenges, as Kenny mentioned, there would be some office hours where you would have to just go in and ask the questions, and they'll be very grateful to help you all. Yes, they are taskmasters, and there is a deadline, a strict deadlines for each and every homework and quizzes. So yeah.
Great, awesome. I had a couple students also asking about on-campus jobs. So I know we talked a bit about how difficult it can be to manage like a full-time or part-time position while you're in this program. But I can answer that as well. There are some postings there's an ASU student job portal on our website. Once you're admitted and accepted, once you've accepted your offer to a program, you're welcome to begin applying to those. I will say most of them will post in the summer when our current students graduate, for example. So just keep checking that job posting. Again, listen to the students' advice. They say the first semester particularly, you will be busy. And that applied project is a great way for you to get that face-to-face company experience while you're in the program itself without necessarily needing an additional part-time position or full-time position. Great question. I have another question here about, we talked about the software, which we've talked a lot about Python and SQL, but are there any other tools you have learned in the classroom that you want to just kind of highlight here, just so they know kind of the breadth of what you've covered so far?
Yeah, we use the Excel tools. It's called Palisades Decision Tools. So there's part of it is SAT tools, at risk,
Tableau.
Tableau
is a big thing.
Oh, yeah,
Tableau is a big thing.
You would be also learning some of simulation tools like Arena. Yeah, it's mostly focused on your analytics knowledge, which would Python and SQL, and yeah, would take care of it.
So I have a question. What can you tell for our students out there, what was your experience like as you were preparing to move to Tempe? Let's talk about that. If you can think about what it was like finding a place to live. Do you guys have roommates? How are you able to locate housing? Because that is a good question that we typically get from a lot of students, starting about by this time and then ramping up obviously in the summer. So can you talk about your moving experiences?
I was planning a shift from Dubai. I got an admit around like December. So I started looking for houses back in January, February, and I finalized one of the houses, which is close by. Just make sure you stay close by to the campus, because there will be a lot of to and fro to the campus, even on the weekends. And there is a good amount of public transport available in and around the campus. But again, advice would be to stay nearby campus, and there are plenty of housing available nearby campus. So yeah, the shifting part was, it was easy. It was, there are things which I had to bring in, and there were things which you can easily get, you can buy from here. So yeah.
Kenny?
Yeah. For me, I currently live in Chandler, quite a bit far from here. But for students coming in for the first time from other places to Tempe, I would suggest to find a place near campus. It tends to get a bit noisy on the weekends, especially. That's part of the reason I moved away. But it's definitely more convenient if you live in Tempe near campus. There's a lot of public transportation, and certain apartments have free shuttle to get to campus. And if you live near campus, you can also walk to campus. You can also cycle, so that's very convenient.
What sort of resources did either one of you use when looking for housing options? I mean, for someone trying to move from Dubai all the way to Tempe, Arizona, that could be a pretty daunting task for someone, almost looking on the other side of the world. So what sort of resources did you guys use to find where to live?
There was a website called as apartment.com, where you would get your all the houses are listed with the budget, with the average rental they have. So that's a good resource that I used.
Yeah, and Google is definitely the best thing. You can always search for apartments in Tempe. Also, I would say Google Maps also help in the sense that you can see where your campus is at and kind of check in the Google search where that apartment is at and see if that's a distance you can walk or you can cycle. It tends to get hot in the summer, so if you come here in the summer, be prepared for the heat.
Plenty of water, be prepared, shade, sunglasses, it's a little bit of what goes with the territory when you're attending ASU. We are called the Sun Devils for a reason. But with that being said, the temperature does cool off. I mean, it's been beautiful here since October, and, it's great to go to school in a place where it's 70 degrees, clear blue skies in January and February when other people throughout the country are digging themselves out of snowstorms.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Any other questions, Amy?
Oh, many more, yes. So just another question. On average, this is an estimation, how many hours do you spend studying per week? On average. Just an estimation. Again, they did not calculate this in advance. What would you say?
We have team meetings, but apart from team meetings, I would say every day I would spend 3-4 hours just to get on the same page with all the classes, with all the assignments. Because sometimes for one class, there's individual assignments, there are team projects, team assignments, and you have to manage all your time and resources to it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. So apart from the classes, which are 3-4 hours long, we would have to spend like 3 to 4 hours doing the assignments, doing a group studies, and studying for the quiz.
Great. Yeah, that's a lot of work. There's another student who asked, for those who come, this may be a good question for you, Kenny, for those who come with no prior Python or SQL experience, for example, how difficult did you feel the beginning was for you?
For me, the beginning is the most difficult one. So for Python, we have the initial workshop that is sent to us in the summer. So that's a great resource. Absolutely go through it. But the real Python course, in data mining 1, which you haven't talked about, I think our cohort is the first one to use Python, right? And then data mining 2 is where the whole class is in Python. And over those 2 classes where we learn more about the Python itself. For me, I was struggling the first few weeks, but as soon as I get used to the syntax, Google is a great resource. If you don't know the specific syntax, you can always look for it. I guess for me, it's trials and errors. If a code is not working, try to change something and run it, see if it works. The whole lecture about Python and the workshop has been very helpful. The instructor for us at Sina Aurora, she's great. She's fantastic. You can always go for her for help. She'll always answer your questions. So yeah, that's it.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Seen a couple questions here asked a few times. To dive a little bit deeper into Python, what sort of Python libraries are used?
We use
We have
scikit-learn.
scikit-learn. Mostly it's scikit-learn for machine learning.
Yeah.
Then we have Spacey for text minings. We have matplot for, let's say, visualizations in Python. There are many other libraries, but these are where we have main focus on.
And you do get access to Python and Tableau. You get licenses through the program. So it's not like you're expected to buy those yourself. You'll get that as part of the program. So that's something that I know sometimes students are a little concerned about there as well. Can you talk a little bit more about the career support that you've received as you go through this program? Have either of you spent a lot of time meeting with your career coaches prior to like today's career fair? Can you talk a little bit about your experience there?
Yeah, so we have wonderful career coaches, wonderful as in they would help you from, let's say, framing your resume to framing which companies to apply for, to modeling your, let's say, cover letters. So they would help you, guide you, like literally handhold you for each and every process of it. Get an appointment with career coaches almost every week. They're very helpful. Apart from that, the campus does the school does a lot to host a lot of companies in a career fair, which we have one of them is today. So yeah, there is a lot of resource available. There are career coaches. Apart from there are peer coaches. So yeah, I mean you'll be in a safe hands once you come here.
Your biggest piece of advice is basically try to work with your career coach as often as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
The more successful students are those who work as closely with the Career Center as they can. Those who maybe check in with their career coach once or twice tend to struggle a little bit. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so to kind of circle back, let's talk a little bit more about the applied project. How were you guys able to select the company that you work with? Does it span multiple different industries? How were you able to kind of choose that? And do you feel it is more than enough as compared to maybe an internship with the applied project? Can you talk a little bit more about that particular topic?
Yeah, so we were given a list of projects that were, by the last semester we were given, let's say 15, 16 projects, and you have to choose, let's say, your top priorities in the order of, so 1 to 9 you have to choose, and then they would allocate you the project along with your new team, and the experience that we have is it's more than an internship because it's focused mostly on the subjects that you learned, and the projects would be focused on, let's say, I'm working on a forecasting project, which I'm using my subjects of data mining one that I learned and also visualization that I learned. So I think it's a great thing to boost and write in your CV as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I can add something to that. There's the companies and the projects comes from a very different industries. There's Adidas, there's University of Phoenix, there's IBM, there's Ping, the golf company, and Arizona Lottery. So there's a fair bit choice for us to choose. And we, like Vaibhav said, we chose the top 5 companies that we want to work with. And they did a very great job in assigning those projects to the teams.
Great. I have another student asking about, with your capstone or with your applied project, how do you engage with the company directly? Do you visit them physically? Do you do webinars like this? Do you call them? How do you do those meetings? It may vary company to company.
Yeah, it depends on the company. For me, the first few weeks we meet up in person in the office. So we have to get a ride. Fortunately, I have a car, so I can bring my team to the company. But throughout the semester, we've been meeting them virtually through Zoom and Google Hangouts. And I think I would say once every 2 weeks.
Once every 2
Every other week.
Gotcha. And Vaibhav, how about
Yeah,
you?
same kind of thing. It mostly depends upon a company's requirement, how your clients want you to share your progress. We are using the Zoom feature, so we are sharing our progress every week, and we have a call with them twice a week. So it's entirely upon the client's disposal.
Yeah. For me, for Arizona Lottery, for the semester's capstone project, Arizona Lottery has 3 projects, and 6 teams are assigned to all 3 projects. So they don't want to meet like every Friday to meet with like 30 people. So obviously the best next thing is like Zoom or Hangouts.
Absolutely. And about how many members are on your team?
We have
I think it's on an average of 4.
4, yeah.
4 people? Got it. Perfect. Thank you. All right. I have there's a lot more questions coming through. Thank you guys so much for posting these questions. We're trying to cover them all. Let's see. One student asked about machine learning. So there is no specific course, but you did mention learning machine learning. So how is that integrated in the curriculum?
So it's part of a data mining 1 and data mining 2's course. And so the libraries make it very simple. I would say some of the students would say that it's just like typing your English. So libraries make it very simple. It's not that hard thing. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. All right. And another student asked, you mentioned the career fair today, which is very exciting. How frequently have you seen those from your side? I know they had one in the fall for sure. Just do you want to talk about
One in the spring, so I think it's every 3 months.
every 3 months?
Yeah, every semester there's always one big career fair. But like every other week, sometimes there's like another career fair coming up, and they also have some fairs where it's specific to a degree or like specific to a school, like School of Engineering, School of Business, where the roles that the employers are looking are more specific to the school.
Perfect.
Keep those questions coming. I'm seeing a ton of good questions out there. Now, in your experience, a lot of people are concerned about finding jobs after the program. Do you feel the applied project is a great opportunity to potentially turn that into a job? I know some students have in the past. It's not something that happens every single year, but it is a great opportunity for you to interact with a potential employer for up to 16 weeks. And so do you find this is a great opportunity to at least practice what it would be like in a working setting? Then you can then use that project that you're working on to take to other potential employers. Do you feel that's valuable?
Yeah, absolutely. Working with an employer, potential employer, you have to be professional in the way you're interacting with them, and from the way you interact with them, sometimes they'll be like, hey, you seem to be a good fit to our company, and soon after you graduate, maybe they'll recruit you. But yeah, absolutely. Capstone projects are a very good way to gain experience. And the career coach told us we can put that in our resume. So that's a very great way to boost our resume.
Awesome. So as someone who is coming into this program with little to, very limited analytics experience, do you feel 9 months is enough? Do you wish you had longer? Do you feel like you're getting enough out of the program?
For me, I feel like 9 months is kind of short, but you still learn a lot in those 9 months since it's compressed. It's a very fast-paced program. I think it's enough, but you can use a bit more time to like getting more deep into the classes, but 9 months is definitely good enough, at least for me.
I would say for me, 9 months was a plus point because I didn't want to be out of job for a longer period of time. So
That's a good point.
yeah, I would have chosen this course over any other because of the price and other things.
That's a fantastic point that you bring up there, Vaibhav. I mean, we are, after all, a business school, and so we understand we have a focus on our students' return on their investment, and our programs are structured the way that they are so that you can come in, you can gain the skills necessary in order to be successful, and then you can move on and take that next step in your career as quickly as possible. We're not really interested in charging our students additional years of tuition, living expenses when they're not able to really work. We want you to be able to gain the skills necessary and then move back into the career field as quickly as you can. So that's a fantastic point. All right. Let's see, tons of good questions here. All right, just kind of bear with us here. We'll be just going through, making sure we haven't missed any important questions. All right, we are still here. Just wanted to ask our students, we see questions all the time about paying for the program. How do you finance your degree? So if you don't mind talking a little bit, how are you guys looking to pay for the program? I know a lot of students are super concerned about, scholarships. Our scholarships are highly competitive and they are not full tuition scholarships. They are somewhat limited sometimes. So you are faced to look beyond just scholarships. So how are you financing your education? Vaibhav?
So I had my savings, which I put into the course, and partially I took a loan from India. There are many banks in India, as well as in US, you have some private lenders that can provide you a loan at decent interest rate. So that's how I'm financing it. Yeah.
Kenny?
Yeah, for me, my parents supported me. Part of the reason is because they wanted me to go for master's, which at first I didn't want to go. But as soon as I stumbled MSBA, like, let's go, let's do master's, let's do MSBA.
Awesome.
Yeah, my parents were fully supportive.
That's great. I mean, when it comes to our scholarships, we try to help our students the best that we can, but we're also, we don't have unlimited amounts of funds. And we're very honest when it comes to our scholarships. They are highly competitive. The actual sizes themselves, they can be somewhat limited. And so our students are much like Vaibhav and Kenny. They're usually financing their programs through a combination of a number of different sources, whether it be personal funds, family assistance, student loans. Those are all sorts of options that are out there. Most of our students do end up attending the program based off of and financing their degree out of some sort of combination like that. Even those who receive scholarships, those scholarships typically may only cover a small portion of the program cost. So you have to make sure that if you are looking at something like this, that you do have enough for rent, for food. We want you to be able to, eat while you're going through the program as well. But there are a number of different ways that you can prepare for that. Amy, do you see any other questions that are really kind of jumping out at you?
I do. This is a bit more of a general question. A few students a few attendees are asking about the math intensity of the course. How deep do you go into algorithms? Some people maybe that don't have a strong quantitative background are a little bit concerned about how they would fare. So I know you both kind of have quantitative background and experience. Do you have any stories from your classmates who maybe came from a non-math background that you want to share? Anyone in your group that you've worked with?
So we don't have so we would go on to the maths, let's say till the 12th level. So let's say having up till the linear algebra, we won't go into, let's say, differentiations and all lot of things. They would be it's a math intensive. You need to have a bit of learn a concept of linear algebra and your single degree quadratic equations kind of thing. But yes, there are students in our classes which who are from, let's say, an arts background or even
people from psychology.
Yeah. So they do cope up well. So it's not that hard.
Yeah. In the first semester, we learn applied statistics, and that's where you learn about simple probabilities, Bayes rule. So Bayes rule is one of the most important things to learn. We do a lot of Bayes rule and also regression. So yeah, those two I think is where I think most people struggle with, including me. So I mean it's also challenging. So but yeah, those two are some of the more important things.
Great. Thank you. And this is kind of a funny one. When you were looking for a master's program, did you apply to multiple schools? And if so, why did you end up choosing WP Carey?
Okay, for me personally, I did my undergrad here. So I'm familiar with Arizona, and I love it here. I love the weather. There's no snow, like crazy snowstorms, tornadoes, only the summer heat. And I mean, even for the summer heat, after you graduate, after you get a job, you'll be mostly in the office with AC.
Yep.
Or at least in some kind of a building with AC turned on. So for me, the weather is perfect. And I didn't want to move to any other places since I've been here for a while. And ASU, I know it's a good school, and I've been here. So ASU is the only school that I applied to.
You don't have to say any others if you did. We're not trying to directly do any of this.
It's fine. So as like other students, I did apply to many other schools. I chose ASU because number one, the brand name. So it's one of the best schools in MSBA and one of the best schools in supply chain. So I had the background of supply chain, so it made a perfect sense for me to come into the school. Secondly, the course curriculum, as I told you before, like 9 months were perfect for me. So the course length was ideal. And lastly, the weather. I love sun. I come from desert, and it's not a desert, so so I love the sun here.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Awesome. So we're almost to the end here. We've got time for maybe just a few more questions. We'll try and go through the list and make sure we haven't missed any big ones.
Oh, actually, there is one more that is kind of related to what you both just spoke about. Someone's sort of asking about the job prospects in Tempe and Phoenix, which I know Eric and I can absolutely answer for you later. But after graduation, are you planning to stay in this area, or will you go somewhere else in the U.S. or maybe somewhere else internationally? What are your goals? Where do you want to kind of land up after you complete the program?
So I attended one of the conference, and they say that Tempe or Phoenix is one of the new Silicon Valleys. There are a lot of companies coming in Phoenix. We already have a big companies like Intel and Boeing, which are part of the Phoenix. And also, yes, I would love to get a job in Phoenix because the cost of living expenses is pretty moderate. Whereas in Bay Area and let's say New York, it goes triples and 4 times. So that way, Phoenix is pretty ideal in the weather-wise and the cost-wise. Yes.
Yeah, for me, I'm only applying to Phoenix, because, like I said, I've been here for a while. I love it here. And also, the prospects. I feel like Phoenix is definitely growing. Being here for a few years now, I see a lot of changes in a good way, to Phoenix, and there's definitely a lot of companies trying to move here, or at least build a headquarters here. And I think Google is trying to build a data center in Mesa in the next few years.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's see here. Just trying to see, once again, any final questions for our students. If you have not gotten your question answered, that's completely fine. We're trying to get through as many questions as we can, and like I said at the beginning, if we can just kind of keep this to the student experience. If you have additional questions, you can always reach out to us. We actually have a few new contacts for you guys here on our screen right now. There's been a few changes here within our department, and you may have been working with myself as well as Amy up to this point, but moving forward, we actually have a couple new names for you can reach out to. So if you do have additional questions, you can contact Naomi Aid. Her email address is listed here on the screen, as well as Shalise Nakayu. You can contact her as well for additional questions that were not answered. We've definitely appreciated working with every single one of you up to this point. It's been an absolute pleasure. So we'll be on the line for a couple more minutes here in case there's any last minute questions. We have about, let me see, maybe about 5 more minutes so we can get maybe 1 or 2 questions for our students. So last minute questions, fire away. And for those of you who might be entering a little bit late, we are recording this email or this presentation, so we will be able to send it out a little bit later. Just reach out to either Naomi or Shalise or either Amy or myself, and we'll try and get you a copy of this when it is ready. So as far as, the total size of the class, typically we're looking at overall 200 students or so are usually within our program, and then you're actually broken up into smaller cohorts. So you'd say your average class size is around 40 or 50 students?
Yep.
Yes. Awesome. So it's definitely possible for you to get to know each and every single one of your classmates. You're never in one of those big, huge lecture hall sort of classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, just want to make sure that we're getting everything here. We have tons of employment information we can send out to students as well. We can send out links to previous webinars, which we've done with our career services. They get a little bit more detailed regarding those employment statistics, sort of resources that we share with our students as well. So definitely feel free to reach out to either Naomi or Shalise to request those things, and we can get those sent to you. So I see a question here. Are classes only offered on the Tempe campus, or are they offered on other campuses as well? And what I can tell you is that all of our classes are here in Tempe. They're not located in any of our other campuses. So Tempe is our main campus, and that's where you're going to be attending most, if not all, of your classes. All right.
I think we're wrapping it up then.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Want to say a special thank you to Kenny and Vibev. Thank you very much for joining us here this morning. You've been great sharing your insights, your experiences about our program. As I mentioned, you guys are completely invaluable when it comes to our potential students. Learning about what you experience as you go through the program, why you chose WP Carey, how you see it helping your careers are just the best things that we can help with our potential students, and we definitely appreciate you guys taking some time out of your busy schedules to join us and speak with us here today, so thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here today. And once again, if you have any additional questions, we have contact information up here on the screen. You can reach out to us and let us know, and wish everyone else a great rest of your day, evening, or wherever you may be. Bye-bye.